Battle Axe Theater contains vaping, which is not as cool as smoking, vulgar language, which is not as cool as nudity, and drinking, which is sorta cool. In other words, viewer discretion is advised.
Battle Axe Theater, that's a good name.
Battle Axe, man, he brought the preach video.
Battle Axe Theater.
Death from Battle Axe. I don't know if you guys have seen, he just rants, and it's awesome. And he just starts screaming and yelling. I need to have a beer with that guy.
Do we have audio? I think we have audio. We're good. Wait.
Hello.
Yeah. All right. What is up, everyone? How's
What's up,
everybody
everybody?
this fine Monday?
First time back viewer, do me some good.
What's up, Michael? All right. So we've got working on some technical stuff real quick. We're trying something new out, which we'll talk about here in just a moment. But it looks like we are ready to rock and roll. Again, what is up, everyone? I'm Punk Shoe. I'm here with my boy Def.
What's up, everybody? Thanks for coming.
Yeah,
Thanks for hanging.
We are Battle Axe Theater, and this is episode number 13, where we're going to talk about our character identity and reputation in the MMORPG landscape. So that's going to be really interesting. We'd normally start off things where we talk about what we did the previous week, and this should be kind of fun because it was the 4th of July, so we hope everyone had a fun and safe holiday for all you fine Americans, and for all you fine other people who aren't American, well, you missed out on destroying our planet's atmosphere. Excuse me for just a moment.
Dude, honestly, I was kind of tuned in to chat, and I only caught half of that.
What? Destroying? What? Go ahead.
Yeah, destroying America, destroying the planet. What'd you say?
I said for those people shooting off fireworks.
Oh, gotcha.
You know, because all that O2 in the atmosphere that tends to degrade, one of those layers up there that, the ozone layer that keeps, the atmosphere from blowing away.
Right. Hey, Turin, thanks for coming, man. Man, good turnout so far, man. Thanks, everybody, for coming.
Stinky Pete says, yes, Def, I tuned in. Do you know Stinky Pete?
I don't know from where exactly.
I bet we know who that is, or you do.
I have an idea who it is. I do.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Shadow Knight from P99.
Oh, nice. What's up, man? Dirty Sanchez's cousin. So we're off to a little bit of a rocky start already. So just to get the ball rolling on things, the first segment we normally do is the weekend rear view, where we talk about what we did for the previous week, because we are a Monday stream, not a stream at the end of the week. Typically I have Def start off, so if you're willing and you're open and you're not too busy, bro, you want to tell us a little bit about what you did last week?
Well, it was a short work week for us due to the 4th, and got the video done, which we'll probably talk about here in a little bit. Other than that, I have some family in town, and we went to the lake and did the whole fireworks thing, had some friends over, just kind of been chilling, enjoying the holiday.
The hot holiday.
Yeah, it's hot as shit right now, I'm not gonna lie.
Well, there was one thing that you were busy with last week, and it was one of our last hurrahs for a minute. You want to talk a little bit about last week's video?
Yeah, that's what I started out with, talking about the video. Yeah,
We made a video, guys.
We talked about being Pantheon patient, and it was on a lot of people's minds, I would say, and I'm glad we did it, man. It got a lot of conversation going on, and we're not. Who are we to tell a developer how to do their jobs, right? That was not our intentions or anything like that, but
right.
It was how to help people be patient. It was at the same time, it was all like throw us a bone at the same time, You could probably word this a lot better than I.
Yeah, so I mean, our video, like the initial thought was a couple of weeks ago, we were sitting here and we're like, we really want to do a Pantheon video. It's been a minute since we did a Pantheon video. And what can we do it on? Because there's really no content. And then, we kind of had this idea of Pantheon Patient. And it was, the intention was to kind of point out the obvious, to point out, our frustrations and set the scene as to why we're frustrated and why we have to remain Pantheon patient. And this isn't, obviously just applicable to Pantheon. It's any MMORPG. So, that's kind of the point, was to set it up in a way that kind of gets you critically thinking with a fairly interesting opening skit, which was a little bit more dramatic than we normally do. But kind of set that tone, and then we flip the script and we talk about, why it's important to be Pantheon patient. Because let's be realistic, guys, there's all kinds of other shit to do out there. And I remembered that we were going to talk about this after the week segment, so that was my bad. So I'm poorly hosting tonight. So
I mean, you kind of just threw me out there, man. I was like, oh, okay.
You're like, in your mind, you're like, we're not supposed to talk about this yet. Oh God,
I'm not prepared.
But yeah, I mean, that was the kind of the point, right? Is like I think we all have these frustrations, especially being on with the VOT guys and talking with a bunch of the Pantheon creator community on stream, on Minus's stream the other night, a couple weeks ago. It was a point that I brought up, and I didn't expect it to gain any traction. I thought it was just going to be perceived as, punk being, bitching about something.
A dick.
And really, I mean, because it's not hard to go out there and just give Pantheon of VR a bunch of praise. I mean, we can go out there and, be positive all the time, but, this is positive feedback and a negative, presentation. So this is a way that... Mm-hmm.
I will say this, it's cool that happened, because it shows that they're listening,
Right.
The next day, I don't know if this is the case, but it just seems like, we got a retweet from Pantheon. That was pretty cool. They've never done that before. So it was really cool to show that they may not be responding to everything. They may not be commented on everything, but it was cool to know that, hey, we're paying attention. We hear you.
Well, you know what that kind of did for me, man, is the fact that it was Kilson that was retweeting it. Like, that really made me think, him being, the community dude. Like, it really made me think, like, okay, yeah, so they hear us, and they're probably well aware of it. So it kind of changed my thoughts on the thing, because like, at first I was kind of like, maybe this is just a huge, I started going that negative hole, right? Like, I think they just did this because they wanted to make more money so that way they could hire more artists and stuff like that. And there's nothing wrong with that, guys. Don't get me wrong here. There's nothing wrong with doing a pledge drive, but don't do it in a shady way that where it seems like you're ramping things up to go into alpha when really it's just a pledge drive. Let us know it's a pledge drive. Put out some solid streams and stuff like that. Show your new build or whatever, and get those new subs, but also appeal to those of us. Like I told Def, we could throw in an extra $5-10 their way just because they needed to raise more money. And I'm sure hundreds, if not thousands of other people would have as well. But,
right.
So then I got to thinking, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, I got to thinking about it, right? And I'm like, you know what? That's a very negative outlook on it. And then after Kilson responded, by retweeting, I was like, hold on a second. I was like, maybe they just got really hyped for their build, right? Maybe they got really excited because they want to play their game just as much as we do. I mean, that was the whole premise with the original EverQuest. It was made for the group of developers that made it.
Right.
And go ahead.
That was kind of the flip side of what I was about to say. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes. They could be... I don't know if you caught Nathan's video about the, I think it was mainly touching on the new website coming out. I think when that new website comes out, they're going to be unleashing a Pantheon load, if you will.
Right.
Sounded dirty.
Yeah.
I mean, that may not be the case, but, we don't know what's behind the scenes. They may be itching to give it to us, and we're just not, they just can't right now, you know what I mean? But... Or, it could be just like it was last fall. They're ramping something up and then let down, Yeah. We don't know.
We don't. And I already gave him my piece on the marketing standpoint. Like, if you're going to ramp up, if you guys are going to ramp up, Keep the momentum going. If it's a ramp, it's a pledge drive like we used to see on PBS, let us know that it's a pledge drive. Don't ramp it up and make everybody think that we're going to have alpha. Now, here's another thing I want to say to VR. If you're not giving us content because you're afraid someone's going to steal your IP, it shouldn't matter. Make an IP that, do something that's super standout. And, if somebody does decide to add something similar, execute it better. That's all I got to say about, is from that perspective. Don't be afraid to show people things to get them hyped up because you want to keep it low key and on the DL. And on the alternative side, which I've responded to one or two of the comments with, if this is an issue where you just don't feel like people are important or you're more important than the people that are supporting you, you all got to drop that shit and just put the stuff out there. Even if it's just more teasers, it doesn't have to be graphical. Give us an actual detailed write-up every newsletter instead of every 3 to 4 newsletters. Give us something, a new feature that you can hype up. If you added stuff to a feature you've already talked about, show us where you failed. Let us know that, you did this and you had this undesired consequence, so you've had to go back to the drawing board. So, dude, how many times have you and I got a laugh out of a digital extreme stream when they're talking about Warframe? And, do you remember there was the one stream where they were, they were showcasing the motorized vehicles that were going to be on Fortuna, and
Right.
Rebecca jumped on it and it exploded.
Yeah.
Shit like that is hilarious. Show it to us, man.
Dude, and even today on Twitter, Meg was recording Rebecca practicing her speech, and then she noticed she was being recorded. There was nobody in the crowd or empty seats. I mean, stuff like that's kind of neat to just see that.
We want to live the process, man. We want to be there.
Which what was I gonna say? Oh man, I wanted to interject so many times, but yeah, we'll just leave it at what you said, I guess. I can't remember what I had to say.
Well, fuck.
I'm bad at that.
Well, if it comes to mind, if we come back to the topic,
Yeah, I'll bring it up. Yeah.
we'll go over that. So anyway, back on track here. My past week was pretty crazy too. I had some family come up from out of state that I haven't seen in a couple of years. We didn't get to see them last summer because of the move, and they came out to see us in our new home out here, which is quite a bit, about half the distance it used to be. So that's kind of cool. And we got to see them and hung out, did the fireworks thing, had a barbecue.
Where do you live at, man?
I live in the United States of America. Hoorah, bald eagles and all that.
Can you pinpoint the state and city?
Would you like the last 4 of my social as well?
Yes, please. That'd be great.
Yes, the America. I'll help you out. I live near you, but I'm closer to Z.
I know where you're at, bro.
Out in this fabulous state that is Arkansas. Why did I move to Arkansas? Well, it still remains a mystery to everyone. But yeah, my week was pretty whatever. We talked about the video. I did get a chance to do something pretty cool last week. Besides, dabbling with Project Gorgon, which our playtime is going to ramp up now that we're on a video production break, so we can work on the new season. But I got to finally mess around with Engine X. And if you guys aren't aware, we are now live on YouTube, Twitch, and Mixer. We can always add DLive, Facebooks, etc. to the mix. So if for any reason there's any kind of strange breakup or lag, please let us know, because we are really testing old trusty laptop over here that's doing all the encoding. So, but if you guys have a preferred platform, I'm not telling you to leave YouTube, because this is where we're gonna, this is home. But I know some people do have Amazon Prime, thus have Twitch Prime, and if you like to watch streamers, you might already have some renown or anything, stuff like that built up over there. Same for Mixer, you might have your bits and all that, and I forget what their tokens are called. But anyway, if you have stuff over there, feel free to check out those chats as well. Pull us up on a second monitor or whatever. We're hoping to reach other markets and things like that, and hopefully spread the love of Battle Axe Theater. And what's up, Barn Cat? Good to have you with us tonight. So about 17 minutes in here. You ready to get started on meat and potatoes? Because this was your idea, so you're going to do all the talking.
Oh, man. Am I?
No, I'm just fucking with you.
Okay, good, man.
So we had our Battle Axe meeting yesterday, and you know, even though this is a Pantheon specific, this isn't a Pantheon specific live stream, because we do a lot of Pantheon stuff, but the live stream is kind of general MMORPGs, very much like with Pantheon content and any other MMO that you cover on a regular basis. To an extent, you're going to run out of stuff to talk about. And I'm starting to run out of stuff to talk about. So if you guys have any great ideas, like the idea about talking about questing came up in the Saga of Lucimia chat, and I thought that'd be an interesting stream topic. One thing that you might be interested, Def, is I've got somebody from SOL looking to potentially come on a stream with us and talk a little bit about the coding part of what MMORPG. So if you guys are interested in that, he's really good at kind of dumbing it down for people like myself. Like, I understand coding and stuff like that, but I don't understand specifics of what it means to make a backend for an MMO. So it'd be really cool to have him clear some of that stuff up, because that would help from a Pantheon perspective too, because we could understand what they're doing, because SOL and Pantheon are developing on the Unity engine.
Right.
So that would give some perception there.
That's going to be super cool, man.
You want to do it then? You want me to get with him?
Hell yeah, man.
All right. We'll make that happen in the next couple of weeks. So Def brought up the topic of, character identity and the reputation in MMOs. And this is important because, we're going into these games that are very much community driven, and we're shying away from those WoW clones. And a lot of these new MMOs are about spending time with other players, and a lot goes into that. So did you have anything before I just start yammering on about this particular topic? Go ahead.
The idea stemmed from when we tried P99 out, and we were in the Skeleton, and you have all these high level people just eager to buff all these low level tunes, and that guy just walked up and gave me a helmet. Stinky Pete actually, I when we were talking to Ren about playing some P99, I snuck on and was playing. I made a Shadow Knight, and Stinky Pete actually gave me like a bunch of badass gear. You know what I mean?
Oh, this is that dude?
Yeah.
Oh, sick.
Yeah. Anyway, but like, so now me and Stinky Pete are friends. You know what I mean? Like, names will stick out because of how you carry yourself, because of your reputation. When I was playing EverQuest, I had people show me how to play my class, how to fear kite, how to split pool.
Right.
And those people were kind people taking time out of their game time to show you the ropes. You know what I mean? It's just how you carry yourself. Like, one thing I brought up to you, if you see like a guy just running in willy nilly, his name is Big Daddy 6969. Not to fuck with that guy. If you're not gonna have a good conversation with that guy. You know what I mean?
XX Sephiroth XX83XX.
You know what I mean, dude? Like, you see those names and you know that they just don't care. They're not taking it seriously. Like, I mean, to each their own. But like, when I play an MMORPG, I judge you by your name. Sometimes it kind of tells me a lot about you, how you're going to take this seriously. Communication is key, stuff like that.
So what about when you got a dude named Punkshoe running around?
Well, right off the bat, he's a douche. I'm just kidding.
I was thinking about that because that's my character name, and I'm using it because I want people to be able to come up and talk to me and stuff like that when we're playing these MMOs. And when we're recording, I want to appear as Punkshoe. But I'm, me, dude, I'm all about like crazy cool RP names and shit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You got all your Nordic names and WoW and all that stuff. That's awesome, though. I mean, I'm the same way. Like, I can't be Deathbone on every character, man. You can't be a paladin named Deathbone.
You got to be like Deathlight.
Oh,
God. Someone's going to go reserve that name now. Yeah, right, Adric. So Adric says there's a lot of camaraderie when the game world is so dangerous. And when you have games like, EverQuest, Saga, Pantheon, things like that. Like any of these old school MMOs and these new MMOs that are taking cues from those old school MMOs, you do you do have this level of difficulty that requires people. And if you're a douche or you're not, wanting to be part of a community, sure, they'll probably introduce some sort of class where you can solo. But if it's anything like past experiences, like the solo jobs or just solo classes aren't the fastest of them all to level. And you're definitely not getting the same experience from the game that you are with other players. So we'll talk about reputation here a little bit more in a minute. I want to ask, so when you mentioned character identity, to me, I was thinking character identity was like how you identify with your character, your attachment that you have with your character, how you wish that it's perceived in terms of reputation, so on and so forth. So tell me a little bit about what your perspective is on character identity. Like, what were you thinking when you brought up that topic?
Well, I met one of the best necromancers on the 7th Ember server, which is now known as Tunair on the live EverQuest servers. And he was known, and I think I've mentioned this on a Bat Live before, but he was known going to like, Kale and soloing the throne room, and then
okay,
that was being spread out throughout the server, Well, that's the guy that taught me how to play my class, you know what I mean? And, you got, this is very EQ-centric. Like, you got your bards,
mm-hmm.
A good twister when you have one. A bard that's keeping that extra song up the whole time,
right.
I guess, I don't know if I'm answering your question specifically, but, like, I want to be that badass necromancer, you know what I mean? When Pantheon comes out, if I'm rolling a necro, I want to be known for knowing my class and playing my part.
So, and in sense, like, you have that a character identity. That's what you want. You want to be identified as that, which then in turn complements reputation because you build that reputation. So, I mean, would you say as Deathbone, you perceived yourself when you were playing regularly as being Deathbone? Would you say like you did your very best to personify a certain aspect of that character? Like, you, in your heart, you were connected with your virtual tune in a way. Would you say that's accurate?
Oh, dude, if I could get a figurine of my original EQ character, I would, man. I guess I probably could, but yeah, dude, and known as being a good guy, someone willing to help, taking time out of my game time. That's the main thing, like your reputation. For example, I had friends that would play EQ and even WoW, and we would all meet up, get on, do what they needed to get done, and then as soon as we get that thing done, oh, time to go, gotta go, wife's home, or gotta feed the kids. It's like, wow, that's convenient because we just completed what you needed done, you little bitch.
Yeah, and under like the
little bitch because I wanted to identify as a nice guy.
But it was under that pretense that like it was an agreement that you would help that person out and then they would stick around to help you out because that's the way shit used to be done.
Yeah, and it's kind of like you don't want to say anything because you're like, all right, I just fucking helped you for 2 hours, bro. I guess I'll just find someone else to help me. But you don't, I'm a nice guy, so I don't say that. But in my heart, that's what I felt.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think I can see where you're coming from there. And I know myself, especially back in the MUD era, and, when you had a singular character in Final Fantasy XI because you had all these jobs accessible to you, you wanted to have that rapport, which again refers to reputation. But at the same time, like, you want to personify a certain something. Like, I'm not going to go out and make a character that's not something that I enjoy. Like, I'll give a good example, and this is kind of a teaser on what's to come. But I've been playing Project Gorgon, and there's one. I won't spoil anything because I want to keep it fresh. But I'll just say there's one particular skill path that can carry you and leveling up your other skills throughout the entire game, and it's kind of OP from a solo perspective. But I don't play these games to play by myself. And I started leveling it up because I was just told that's what it is. And I'm hating it. I don't like it. It's not my play style. I don't like the management of those types of skills. And that's not how I see myself identifying with my character. I am a bard, in game. I want to be there and to support people. I want to lift them up. And I would rather be that guy that does minimal to no DPS, but increases the entire raid's DPS by 10 to 20%, because that's the kind of person that I am, and spot heals here and there, because that's the intention. I'm going to do the same thing in SOL. I played healer very heavily through most of my World of Warcraft career. All those top guilds that I raided in, minus the big pug people that we had that were bigger than some of the guilds, but I played a resto shaman, a resto druid, a holy pally, because that was my thing. Sometimes I would do tanky stuff when it was needed, when we didn't have a tank, because I wanted to fill those roles that were needed, and I wanted to build things up, because that's my personality and that's how I identify with my character, because I can't do all that shit in real life, you know?
Yeah, and I will say, from all the times I've gamed with you, you're really big on being a utility class. But and I want to say this: modern MMOs have kind of killed that identity and fulfilling a specific role. You know what I mean? You get a tank that wants to be the top deeps. You get a, you know, I can't think of a good example in recent games, but you know, you get a utility class that just wants to do a little bit and then still be on the DPS meters, and it's like it kind of kills it, you know. And that's why I like how you know, when you play several classes, you make alts, you learn those classes, just to get that information and understanding of what other classes have to do, because then that makes you more aware of like, oh, this enchanter is doing a fucking awesome job. You know what I mean?
That's why I did what I did in WoW, dude. I mean, I leveled every job or every class that there was in WoW up to max level, because as a raid leader, I wanted to understand how they worked. And when people would try to be like, oh, I'm doing it, and I'd be like, nah, try these buttons out and do it right. Otherwise, you know, after a bit, we might have to have a conversation on the side so you could learn how to play your class. But I mean, dude, like I said, for me, it all came back to like wanting to be that guy that was helpful. Like I didn't do that so I could just say, no, you're wrong. I did it so I could understand, and then all that would then come back into whatever I was playing as a main at the time. And that's just how I am. Like, that's what I want to be. But I think what it is, dude, is I think the environment has changed to such a casual gameplay environment that, you know, you have this rush. You have these power pullers. You have these people who don't know how to play as a healer and play as a healer just for quick queues. You have DPS that don't care about doing their part in CC and buffs and debuffs and so on and so forth, and they just want personal debuffs and personal buffs, and they want to do as much damage as possible so they look good on a meter somewhere. And I think that's where we've kind of become disconnected, because there's no, in a casual gameplay, when everything's like this all the time, there's no identity. You don't. And I even had this problem in WoW, dude. Like, you're forever Deathbone, right? But I mean, I'm Angraboda, I'm Nerubus, I'm Jormungandr, I am Fenris Sulfur. I go down the entire list of all the characters that I've mained, and thus I have no identity in the game. The identity that I have is G, named after my Death Knight Yol, the guild leader. That was the identity.
Never be known as G. I mean, I'm still getting used to calling you Punk Shoe. But, you know.
but yeah, and that's the thing, is like I find it very difficult to find that identity. Thus, in turn, because I can't find the identity, I don't feel invested in the game. I've told you this, dude. I don't want to make friends in modern MMOs. Like, we've played so many games, and I've told you outright, like, I do not have the emotional wherewithal to make friends when I don't feel invested in something. If I'm going to play something for 2 or 3 months and just stop playing, I'm not emotionally invested in that, and thus I don't give a shit, except for when we went back and we played, you know, we went back and played Final Fantasy 11. I felt invested in that character because because you're in this environment, it automatically brings back that nostalgia feeling, right?
Yeah, and that's kind of like Reborn and P99 for me, you know. I'm like, hey, bro, you know.
Yeah, and it's like, you don't even have to be playing it that long. You could play it on a Friday night, and just for a few hours, you remember how it was, so you instinctually run up on a party and you're like, hey guys, how's it going? How are you doing? Do you need a druid? Do you need a shadow knight, you know? Well, I'll just stand here and hang out in case you need me.
Yeah, and I think the harder, older MMOs, you know, it's kind of like, you know, you've been playing it for a while, you got people that have been playing it for a while see a new character and they see that you're interested in staying for a while, and they're just so eager to help you, you know.
Yeah.
And that's what I miss, you know. Wow, I mean, come on.
That's kind of what got us started on this whole train, because I'm sitting here one day and you talked to me about it, and I was like, about P99 and Reborn first. And I'm sitting here, I remember you telling me months and months and months before we started playing P99 about P99. And then you're like, oh, there's this new server coming out called Reborn. And I'm just like, all right, let's make a little shout out video on it. And then I'm sitting here and I played retail EverQuest with you. And I won't say that I hated it, but it was so overwhelming because it was in a retail environment and it didn't feel like a classic MMO. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, I really, really have an itch to play Final Fantasy 11, but Def wants to play EQ. I've never played EQ, so let's see what this P99 thing is about. And then you just were head over heels about it. But
oh, hell yeah, dude.
For me, it was about that itch. Like these guys, like everyone's talking in chat, you know, there was this certain reward that felt so much more fulfilling by playing with other people and slowing it down. Like, I don't understand why you need to feel like you beat whatever patch or expansion's content is out. Like, I remember the sense of old school MMOs feeling like, yeah, there's an end game, there's a finishing point, there's a finishing line, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, but it is like a 1.5 year investment away. Like, yeah. I remember that, and I think that really, like, you identify yourself with your character because you are going to spend a 1.5 year in that character's shoes, and in the case of Final Fantasy, you were trying another job. But go ahead.
Yeah, well, no, I just agree with you completely. Like, if I was to, you know, start fresh on let's say the new P99 green server that's coming out, where it's a fresh reset.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I mean, that's gonna take some damn time. You know, you become that person. You know, you become that character because you're gonna be on that character for a lot of real life hours. You know what I mean?
Right, and like, because you're on it so much, because when you're at work, when you're really invested in your character and you're really enjoying the game, you're at work, and when you're on your shit break or your lunch break, you're thinking about going home and playing, you know, little Nerubus. So for me, the original Nerubus was a druid mage in a mud, and I'm thinking about, like, yeah, when I get home, I'm gonna do like XYZ quest, and I'm gonna meet up with some people, and we're gonna go raid this castle, and I'm pumped. And you identify with that.
I miss that, dude. I miss it so much. I miss being like, I know so and so's gonna be on, so and so's gonna be on. We're gonna get on. We're gonna maybe go dive into this dungeon and get balls deep. You know.
Yeah.
I miss that,
dude.
Like, you don't get that anymore.
That so much, man. Like, I remember, so my family owns a lawn maintenance business, and when I was growing up in my first couple of years of college, I was mowing lawns, and we did a lot of acreage type properties where it's 4 or 5 acres. So you're spending like 2 hours on a 0-turn, like 60-inch mower mowing the property, and all you had was 2 hours just bumping around, riding, to think about how you were going to develop your character when you got home, and who was going to be on when you got home, and you were super excited, and like what gear you were going to go farm, and you know. I'm gonna make a new tune today. Like, I remember those, dude. Were like, I'm gonna Final Fantasy. I was like, I'm gonna go unlock Samurai tonight, and I'm gonna get it to 30 over the weekend. Like, I remember that shit, and it's not like that now. Now it's like, I'm gonna make an alt in WoW, and I'm gonna go queue for dungeons after I hit level 15, and tomorrow I'll be level 60, and it'll all be good, and then I just won't play again for the rest of the month.
Yeah, and see. I will say this by knowing you. You know, you have an issue with getting into a game and basically getting the end game. Where I know your heart is set on old school MMOs because you couldn't do that back in, you know, Final Fantasy 11. You had to. It almost. I want to say it like forced you to do the journey.
Oh, I mean, yeah, there was definitely an end game, right? But they gave you content to do in between.
On the way that was enjoyable, unlike modern MMOs where it's like, oh, well, instead of questing 500 quests, I could just do dungeons and get there in 3 days, you know?
Yeah.
It kind of kills it.
Yeah, and then the way this comes back to identity again, guys, is and when we talk about identity, when you feel invested in your character and you feel like you're in this for the long term, you become more like your character. You become your character becomes the way that you want to present it. And dude, I would even venture to say, in a way, if when you present your character a certain way, it actually changes you as a person. Because I can remember playing characters that I made just to be assholes and how I felt like more of an asshole type troll individual outside of that character. And then, well, I think the best example, I'll give you the best example. When I played, my first character was a Taru in Final Fantasy XI. I played a bunch of different jobs, but I was a thief. And
Little bitch right out the gate.
yeah, I was a little kid, man. And so like there was already this like cuteness football factor like you had with gnomes and other games. And so, you know, being a thief in Final Fantasy was difficult because you had to get the party to organize themselves in a way that you could queue up your sneak attack, trick attack, and actually make it do something. And if you did it right, when you're leveling in a group, you could do it every other mob, and your one weapon skill would take away half the mob's health. So it would speed the process up. But people never wanted to fucking listen to me. And then when I would be like, look, dude, you guys are fucking it all up. If you guys could just please listen to me, we could all level twice as fast. They would start giving me shit because I think because they were a tall elf or a big, you know, beefy Galka or whatever, they were better than this little Taru. And I was just like, that's so weird, right? Like, this is a character. I'm a person. I could probably beat you up IRL, you know? But it's like, it becomes like this personification. Like, you know, I'm a 5'10" at the time, you know, fairly muscular, chunky dude that could probably smash your face. But because I look like a little, you know, toddler running around, I'm immediately talked down to. And we see that in real life, you know, tall people generally get more respect than short people. And so like, but then I got pissed. I deleted that character. I made a Galka, which is like a Rogadin. Like you're familiar with Rogadin in 14, right? The big guys. And you're a Galka in 11. So I made a Galka, and all of a sudden it was like Galka Death Knight or Dark Knight coming through. Like everyone's like, I want this fucking big ass Galka using a fucking scythe or a big ass greatsword. You look beastie. You look awesome. Come play. And you could be like the worst fucking player ever. And I'm just like, okay. It changed how I felt as a person because I felt like I got more from that because I started identifying with that character as like, big two-handed sword, Galka going to come save the day.
I want to say something, and
Speak.
I may get some hate for this.
Y'all hate on Death. He needs it.
Every gnome I've ever known is a straight up bitch. Okay? Example. There was this, I would always take the boat from, what, Stranglethorn? Where do you go to get to the boat from, in WoW to Stranglethorn? Am I thinking of the right game?
Yeah, you're there. I don't remember the port city, but it was
Booty Bay.
Booty Bay. Okay, yeah.
I don't know why. Maybe me and this other bitch had a connection. Gnome. His name was Lovecraft. Shout out Lovecraft if you're watching. But I would like wave at him, and every time he would rude gesture me, and I'm like, what the fuck, man? I mean, I know we can't speak each other's language, but like, why you gotta be like that? and then every kill stealer in EverQuest was a fucking gnome. It's like, why? Like, why are gnomes the only bitches that I ever run across? I don't know. To be fair, I had two really good friends in EverQuest that were gnomes, but I mean, I've had a bunch of bad experiences.
Well, let me pose this question, because I think it fits within character identity. Do you think people roll certain races because, like, like their perception of certain races stems from who they are as a person, so they immediately can identify with their character? Like,
yeah, if you're a bitch, you're gonna roll a gnome. Makes sense.
God damn, dude.
I'm kidding. For everybody that loves gnomes.
So wait, hold on. I like to roll female characters.
Damn, you are a bitch. I'm kidding.
Oh yeah, dude. One of my favorite characters is a female gnome. So go eat a dick.
Okay.
But yeah, I think that's definitely something that like it exists, right? Like you pick a certain thing. Like me, it was a lot of min-maxing, or like I feel like playing something adorable or something like that. But I think in itself, like that's not like a quote unquote manly thing to say, that I want to play something that's adorable. You want to be like that jacked up human, or that, you know, that Rogadin, or that elven that's got muscles for days, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas, like, you know, it's expected that a feminine person is going to play a female character that has cute characteristics. And I think maybe like what's perceived in here and in here may be projected in its character, which helps you again identify with it a little bit more.
Well, me personally, I'm all over the place. Like, everybody knows that's watched our EQ videos and whatnot. I'm an Ixar fan, you know.
Right.
When I saw ESO and had the Aragonians, I called them Ixars, because to me that's what they are. So anytime I have that option, that's what I'm going to be. I'm going to be a fucking reptile, lizard, motherfucker. Anyway, but throughout the years of playing MMORPGs, I've grown quite fond of the dwarves, you know. And then in Final Fantasy XIV, I'm a fucking human because I didn't like my selection that I had. You know, like,
Right.
I've always thought being a human was like, that's kind of lame, because you're in a fantasy world, and like, why would I be a human? Because I'm a human in real life. But I'm a human in Final Fantasy XIV. Never thought that would happen.
Well, there you have it. But you're not going to be one for long, so don't own that yet.
Yeah, I'm not going to own that yet, 'cause I have new options.
He's going to be a bunny chick.
No, hell no.
I'm totally making a bunny chick, dude. I mean,
I know.
a skinny, tall, sexy ass running around. I get to stare at it all day.
I'm going to be a big old pussycat.
He's
What do
gonna
you call
be,
those?
I don't know.
Rothgar?
Yeah, I think that's what they're, the Rothgar.
Rothgar. I'll make one of those.
So yeah. So I wasn't saying like everybody identifies with it, but I'm just wondering, you know, if that plays a part in it, right? Like that's, you make a character. Maybe that's what it was. You know, maybe I was feeling cutesy poo, never played a real MMO before, and was like, oh, these guys are adorable. Because I'll be real with you guys, I love adorable things. I love cats. I love anything small and fuzzy, and tarus and gnomes. But anyway, like maybe that was me, right? Like I made this cute, adorable thing thinking nothing of it. And then when it came to be serious, like I just couldn't identify with it 100%, because the identity was not allowing me to progress. But anyway, so let's roll this back. So we got about 15 minutes or so before we wrap things up. Let's talk a little bit about reputation. And this is like, we've kind of talked about this the entire time. And you've talked about a couple of people that inspired you and that had reputations. Now, what would you say was your reputation? Pick whatever game that you want. Talk a little bit about what your reputation was, what you think people perceived of you.
Man, I was always the guy back in the EverQuest days. I was always the guy that got into, everybody liked, but I got into a little bit of trouble. You know what I mean? I was always, I was in like a casual raiding guild in EQ, Chaos Might. Shout out, Chaos Might is watching. But I was the only necromancer. I was only main necromancer, and I was known for waking the dead and raising the giant. when we're doing loot, I'm gonna go find a trash mob, pull it to raise the dead on it, and make it the whole fucking raid attack it. Of course,
Did you ever tell them about it, or did you just do it?
No, and every time it's
You're the
God
worst.
damn it, Dev. You know, like you get me every time, and I'm like, well, you should know by now. But anyway, but you know, I don't think it really pissed everybody off, because everybody's all like, ha ha ha, you had them, blah blah blah. So I don't know, it's kind of the kid that got in trouble a lot, because back in EverQuest I was a lot younger, you know what I mean?
Right.
I was a teenager.
Well, do you think so? You went from EQ to World of Warcraft. Do you think there was even an opportunity for you to really build up this persona as a character, to build this reputation in WoW?
it's such a different animal. I mean, it's
Right.
the same, but it's a different animal. I mean, it's like your reputation in WoW is your personality in chat. You know what I mean? It's not your personality of what you do in the game.
Right.
And does that make sense?
Right, because I mean, it was very alt-driven. Like everybody had a bunch of alts, so you could never really identify with a single character. You never had a single role that you played. Like there were different things that you did. You'd kind of diversified in a way that there was no like character identity. It was who you were as a person and what you did for your guild or the community.
Yeah, and it's I don't know. It's I mean, you could have a good tank. They know what they need to do. You could have a good healer. They know what they need to do. But at the same time, it just became a, and I've said this in one of our videos, it became an arcade game where you're mashing buttons. You know?
Yeah. Oh, dude, I remember. I wouldn't say it was ability bloat, but you got to a certain point before they really changed the talent system and kind of dumbed down stuff quite a bit. It was definitely no EQ2 ability bloat. But I remember, I mean, it was constantly just, and like you were just like waiting for shit to come off GCD. You had haste up so that GCD was like half second, and you were just like, just mashing buttons. And like Ret Pally was a good example back in the day because all you had to do was just do this on the keys, and or how about the mouse wheel doohickey on playing Hunters, where you could bind it to your mouse wheel and just spin it, and it would just go through your rotation.
See, that's all new to me, man.
That was a thing, and like it took no brain. Like you didn't have to play. You could tab out and just sit there. And if you weren't assigned a duty in a raid as a hunter to, do some sort of CC, whether it be a trap or, kite or whatever, like you're just like whatever. But yeah, that's
kind of new. I'm probably gonna dabble a little bit in WoW Classic. Just because I never played it, When, like I said before, WoW Classic, WoW was in beta. Everybody was switching from EverQuest to WoW beta, and I refused, and I didn't get into WoW till Burning Crusade.
You're such a hipster. Oh, everybody else found this game. I didn't find it first.
I mean, I eventually had to make the switch because EverQuest was kind of drifting off, and then the guild disbanded, and I didn't know what the fuck to do, so I said, fuck it. And, I didn't have my Feign Death on my Warlock, but it's okay.
You should have rolled a Hunter.
They gave it to Hunters.
So I would say my perceived reputation was the same. Like a lot of our experience together is World of Warcraft, and like you said, your experience with me and perception of me was not based around Guild and what Guild did. Your experience is not based around Nerubus and what Nerubus did, or what Anger did, or what Black did, or what Jormungandr did, but it was around what the person, Punkshoe, did for the game as a whole versus character identity, where I can say when I played Final Fantasy, like if I played a certain set of jobs, like I was the Dark Knight, and people knew me as a Dark Knight. And when I wasn't a Dark Knight, I was a Dragoon with my wife. We were hanging out and doing stuff. And then in my spare time, the reputation that I had for some of the stuff that I kind of did as my alt type jobs is I was, and if any of you guys here are Final Fantasy 11 players, I was a Galka caster. I played a Galka summoner and a Galka white mage. And I don't know if you've seen your stats and really paid any attention to them as Paladin, but Galkas just don't have MP.
Yeah. Well, you've explained that to me as we were playing.
Right, yeah. So I didn't have the MP, so I had to find ways to convert my HP to MP, which took a lot of money. But it also took a certain skill style of play. Like I would get in these groups, and I've talked about this in the past and other videos and other live streams where, you could not top people off if you were a healer. And you had to make that extra special effort to go get Fenrir as a summoner because you needed to have this really badass summon so that way people would invite you to the group because nobody wanted a Galka healer in their group. And then you get in there and you're keeping people group buffed, you're keeping them heal topped off. And then when you're a white mage, you're healing them in a way that they're like, I'm not fully healed. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to fully heal you. You can sit and rest your ass while the puller goes and pulls. And you're going to stay alive because we can chain pull because I don't have to fucking expend that extra 150 MP between pulls to heal your ass. I could sit there and heal with you. So
Right.
that was kind of the reputation I got, was the guy that could play a caster Galka and was fairly decent. I won't say fairly decent. I was pretty fucking good at it. And then when I was in the raid scene, I was that Dark Knight that had all the gear swaps and everything. So I'd be rocking one set for doing damage, building TP, and then flip sets to blow off a huge weapon skill, sneak attack or whatever.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but we had a really good tank, Reno Light, in our guild in WoW, and if I recall correctly, she was tanking in her DPS spec at some points, or am I just making shit up in my head?
Well, I guess what context are we speaking in though? Like, what's the point?
I just remember seeing. I want to say I remember seeing like, oh my god, you're like, your top DPS in your tank, and I don't think there were. I don't remember when the specs came into play.
Well,
Like,
when we
was
talk
there a
about
time-
go ahead.
We were talking about Rena like in Wrath. I think she was tanking shit while she was in the raid as a DPS.
She came in as Rhett when we started raiding Nax, and never
Right.
thought she would be a raider. And then I pulled her aside one day. And that might have been it. That might have been the cue that was like, dude, have you ever thought about tanking? Because I was tanking at the time.
Yeah.
And so I asked her to try out Prot, and she came Prot to the next raid, and she was good. And that was the thing about Rena. It was like she never knew. Like I remember sitting down having a conversation years later where she's like, "Without you, I would have never known that I was a badass tank." And she went from being our Prot pally through all of Wrath of the Lich King, and then after that, she was playing a Brewmaster Monk, and she
Right.
swapped back and forth between Brewmaster Monk and Prot pally, and like she had an amazing reputation as a tank. Like one of the only people that I know that could run halfway through a dungeon on heroic Saturdays and get halfway through it and go, "Oh, I didn't have my shield on this entire time," or "Oh, I've been
Yeah,
using a
exactly.
fishing pole this whole time."
Right. And that's the whole reason I brought that up, was for the identification. Like, how to identify in WoW versus, where it's more your personality. It can be done in WoW,
Right.
if you're a good player, But I hate to say that, being a good player, because
Well, and to do it in WoW, you kind of have to specialize, right? You can't diversify. You can't play all the different specs. You can't play all the different classes. You've got to have that identity. You have to be like Z. Z can tank.
yeah,
I mean, that's what Z identifies. And he's pretty good DPS and stuff too. But when you think Z, and in terms of who he is as a player, in terms of identity, he is a tank. And you look at
Right.
me as I'm a healer.
yeah,
And lately, for the last however many years, you've been a tank too.
yeah.
Like, I think about you as a tank, and because you kind of have specialized across multiple games, multiple characters in those games, in that
Yeah.
little niche. But as a whole, like when you're like me and you play a little bit of everything, like there's no personification. There's the application, but there's no thinking about me as a character. There's thinking about me as the voice in Discord, and you as the voice in Discord, Z as the voice in Discord, so on and so
Yeah.
forth.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of that line between older MMOs and today's MMOs. That gets kind of gone. Like in Final Fantasy 14, I can level up several jobs, and I can choose whatever I want to be for the day. But-
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just
But
checking here, getting reports of stream buffering. So
Uh-oh.
I don't see it, but we may have missed it when it was doing it. I'll check in on that. We seem to always have a little bit of a problem toward the end of the stream, so I don't know what it is. I even restarted my net. I restarted my modem and my router. So everything should be crystal clear in terms of that. Of course, we're doing this triple stream, but it takes minimal extra bandwidth to do that. But you're back on the topic here, though. Like, reputation was everything. And I can tell you, dude, going back to MMOs, and somebody had asked, oh, goodness, I have it here. Dan, 6543 Dan, asked if we had talked about population with, respective to reputation. And I used to play MUDs, and MUDs would only have maybe, at most, some of the medium-sized MUDs would only have a couple hundred players at a time, right?
Right.
So if you had a reputation, and it preceded you. And I remember it when I really started getting into this whole analytical thing, because, you know, that's a big reputation I have, is being analytical and figuring out the systems of a game to min-max and meta or whatever you want to call it, right? So one of the things that I would do is I would befriend people that were well known on the server and ask for tips and stuff on how to be successful. And I would just have that conversation with them. And you know, I eventually became that person where people would search me up and they would see that I've got X amount of PvP kills, X amount of XP and quests done, and they would see me in town, and like visually today you would see people in, well, not today, but like 10 years ago, you would see people in certain gear and you knew they had some sort of they were important in a way that they put in effort, so you would try to befriend them.
Right.
And that goes with reputation as well. Like you get in a group and you're like, oh, we need a tank, and then somebody is immediately like, check with so and such, you know, he tanks and he's really good at it. And then, you know, you roll with them and they come to your group and you're like, oh, they weren't kidding, this dude can tank. And then now you know this and you're telling all your friends about it.
Yeah, that's, you know, I always bring this up to Epic Weapon Quest and EverQuest. You know, like if you're an upcoming let's say monk, and you see that other monk with their epic in their hands, you're like, hey man, you know, I saw you did the good journey, you did the good fight, you know, like anything you could recommend to me, you know. I miss that. I miss having gear and weapons that were like a badge of honor, you know. You get that thing and it's like, yeah, you see this, I worked for this, you know.
But you got to be humble too, right?
Right, you know, man, it only took me 37 months, you know. Like,
but you got to be humble in the sense of like when, like you don't have to play it down like, oh, I'm just a normal dude. But I mean, you can have your flair, but you don't have to come off as you know, belligerent, or what's the word here? There's another B word here. You're coming off as a braggart, yeah, or cocky. Like that guy, he's a tank. If he comes up in and it's just like, you stand here, you stand here, you stand here, I'm going to pull, don't do a goddamn thing, I'm going to pull. Yeah, he might be good at doing what he's doing, but if he's a bossy bitch and he's not working with you, he's just a cocky, arrogant asshole, like there's your reputation right there. Okay, yeah, he's got a reputation as a tank, but as a person, he has a reputation of being a super dick.
Right. And everybody has their own way of doing things, but you know, there's a good balance when you I think WoW kind of ingrained this in my head, but I think the tank is always kind of the leadership role, you know, like, hey, but at the same time, you know, I'm used to, you know, Final Fantasy 11, EverQuest, you know, where, you know, you have a stationary camp and that tank or puller goes out and it's like they pull the mob and then tank tags a mob, you know, and you all have your set roles, and it's kind of an understanding that everybody plays their part. But yeah, when you get those guys that go in there and just like, hey, you do this on this percentage and you do this blah 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 blah, you know, you got to take into consideration when they're being like overly cocky, or if they know what the fuck they're talking about. Or,
well, let me ask you this one.
Like, I know, bro. I know how to play my character.
Yeah, dude. I hate that. Need heals. Need heals. What the fuck do you think I'm doing, you dickhead? I'm healing you. Why don't you fucking tank better and use some of your mitigation abilities, you cocksucker?
Yeah. There you go. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Well, let's flip the script. What about the other way? What if you got somebody was just in your group that was kind of, I won't venture to so far to make it as difficult to say that they're a bad player. They're bad at what they do. They're mediocre. They're average, maybe slightly below average, but kind of your average person on their job, their class, whatever. But they're super fucking fun to hang out with. Like, what would you say in that regard?
That's 100% me. I mean, well, you know, it's at the end of the day, it's about the community, you know. But I don't know. Pick your battles, man. It's like, do you want to progress in the game, or do you want to make friends and just kind of get by?
But what if they don't really hurt the flow? Like what? All right, so let's say
if they
that
don't hurt the flow, man. I'm all for it. You know, it's like, okay, you know, if it's a consistent pace that's not harming anything, I'm not going to say anything, dude. I mean, they're having fun. I'm having fun, you know.
Well, I mean, you remember how I used to get with other bards in Final Fantasy when we'd have a bard in our group in Dunes, and I'm like, why aren't you fucking doing this? And why aren't you doing that? Like, what the hell? But
Yeah.
the reality of it is like the extra DPS they would have been contributing was minimal at best. So if they did at least keep up their buff songs, like if they were a cool person, I mean, you're getting the buffs, you're killing faster, you're regenning faster, so on and so forth. And the bard's kind of like not that good, but they're all right enough. You know, maybe they don't get to the mob until halfway through the fight and they get 2 hits off with their sword. At least they're doing something. But if they got a killer personality, I'm going to keep them around. Or if they're killer good at like making a group, even though they might suck, and that's why nobody invites them, they have to make groups in the first place. If they're really good at replacing, you know, people, getting replacements and stuff like that, or they've got a really good personality, I would be inclined to group with that person over somebody who might be good, but steadily unavailable, steadily.
Come on, guys. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, we've experienced that in WoW specifically. You know, you get this person that's getting by, and they're like cool to hang out with, and their communication's on point, and they just may not be top tier, you know, but you get this other top tier guy that's like, God damn it, let's go, you know, like they're just like, let's go, you know, and it's just like, calm the fuck down, bro.
Yep.
Enjoy yourself.
Very much so. All right, so I think that's going to kind of wrap things up. While we proceed with the wrap up here, if you guys have any questions for us directly about future content, way we're doing things here, anything related to Battle Axe Theater as a whole, feel free to let us know. There is a little bit delay in chat, but just throw that up and we'll try to answer those questions for the end of stream. If not, we'll hit you up in the comments. You can leave a comment. So before we wrap this up, Def, do you have any other final thoughts on the topic of character identity and reputation?
It's kind of like our rule in Battle Axe Theater: don't be a dick. I think that's the only rule you really need. If you need help, ask. If you know everything, teach people. I mean, that's what it's about, man. Your reputation, your identity. You know, like, it's not an MMORPG if you don't have other people to play with. So
Absolutely.
I think that's the important thing to keep in mind. And a lot of people a lot of people don't like to hear that because they just want to go in and, I mean, if you're playing an MMO as a single player game, you shouldn't play.
Absolutely.
I'll stop there.
And I agree with all of that. So if you guys are out there, you know, try to put your best foot forward, try to represent yourself how you truly are and how you wish to be perceived. As the old adage goes, treat people the way that you want to be treated. And I think good things will come from that, and just go out there and do that. So just to wrap things up here, if you guys aren't already, please check us out on Twitter and Facebook. We are Battle Axe Theater on both Facebook and Twitter. We'd love to have you guys as a follower or on either of those. And if you're interested in joining in the conversation outside of stream and outside the, you know, some of these things are games where we might talk through chat, feel free to hit us up in Discord. That link is in the description. Feel free to join the chat. There are several channels there that you can utilize to communicate and talk about various things. There's some game channels. We've got voice chat that's open to the public. We have a few of those. So yeah, you guys are welcome to join and do that. One final thought that I have, and this is something that we've talked about, Def. So we've got this multicast thing going where we are on Twitch, Mixer, and YouTube right now, YouTube being the primary. And I will go through to get some graphics and things and emojis and stuff set up over time for those other outlets. But and this is really a question for chat because we've already talked about it. Would you guys be interested in consuming the content in a podcast style? Would you like to have this on, you know, iTunes or whatever? If you guys would be interested in that, I have ways to clean up. I know there's like a little bit of like a hiss when we're doing this live, just because I've got a server running in the background and my AC unit's literally on the other side of this wall. But I can clean all that up, as you see in our actual videos, and post and put those up for consumption via podcast, and cut out some of the beginning and end of the stream where there's nothing happening. If you guys would be interested in seeing that, let us know in chat. Let us know in the comments if you're seeing this recorded, so that way we can accommodate you guys. Yeah, and that's that. As far as the vaping goes, we're not going to stop vaping, but if it is harsh here, we'll have to figure out something that we can do to fix that, and we apologize for that. We have made efforts to try to get away from the microphone as much as we can.
I have been doing this.
But we know you can still hear it. But anyway, maybe we'll stop vaping right? You know, we've
I
got
don't know
these.
if I can go a whole hour without my nicotine, but
You just can't go an hour without putting things in your mouth.
I got it. I'll start smoking cigarettes in my room.
This is a terrible joke. Why would you even say that? That's why we vape.
But
Don't-
it might make them happy. Oh, that's still loud, ain't it? I don't know. Sorry, guys, ignore me. I'm being.
Anyway, we're completely sidetracked here. But anyway, we want to thank you guys for coming out tonight. We hope you're enjoying it on whatever channel that you guys are hearing it on. Zootastic, we see you talking over here in the Twitch stream chat. Hi, what's up? But anyway, check us out. We are on Twitch. We are on Mixer, both Battle Axe Theater. Give us a follow over there just so that way we can represent across the channels and you can use your respective rewards there. But again, until then, until next week, are you ready to wrap it up this time?
Yeah, let's wrap it up, man.
All right. Until next time, we will... No. Anyway, see you guys.
Later, guys. Thanks for coming out.